Welcome back. So, I've talked about the Rangers, I've talked about the Canadiens, and now I want to talk about the Islanders. And is it a bigger surprise that the Islanders are still in the hunt at this point in the season than Montreal? A little bit. We've seen Montreal go on these really, really good runs. And with the Islanders, it's just been they don't lose often enough to find themselves out of the picture. They find ways to get victories, and they stay in the hunt. So currently, they're 31, 28, and 8 are the Islanders, 70 points. 3 points back of the Montreal Canadiens, 2 points back of the New York Rangers, but they have, I believe, 2 games in hand on the New York Rangers. They are tied with Columbus and Detroit in terms of points, so this is quite the logjam. And they're 1 point ahead of the Boston Bruins. So they have a huge game tonight to the New York Islanders, where they're at home against Montreal. And if they win that game in regulation, they'd pull themselves within a point of the Montreal Canadiens and hope that the playoff line stays at the Montreal Canadiens rather than, say, the New York Rangers ending up being in that spot. But for the Islanders to be playing games that are this important past the midway mark of March is a little bit of a surprise. Now, their next game after this one tonight is at home against Calgary on Saturday. That is one of those ones that should be winnable for a team. You know, you're at home, you're in the playoff chase. Calgary's also in the playoff chase. It's going to be a fun one. And then they're at home on Monday against Columbus. So 2 of the next 3 games, they can really do themselves a favor. They win both those games. They make the picture more dire for Columbus, and they might make things a little more difficult for Montreal, at least at that point. And then they finish the homestand next Wednesday against the Vancouver Canucks. And the Canucks have been very up and down. You don't know what you're getting from one night to the next. I guess the Canucks are like a box of chocolates, but like half of them are like this fantastic, like Werther-style caramel inside the chocolate, and the other half are rocks. So then the Islanders go out on the road. They play on Saturday the 29th in Tampa. And then the next day, they're in Carolina against the Hurricanes. And then a couple days later, they're at home against Tampa. I would think that the Islanders need to at least win one of those games. And or pick up 2 points somehow. If they're 2 overtime or shootout points, fine. But they need to get something out of these 3 games just because of how tightly bunched they are with everybody else. And we know they don't have the easiest schedule of all the teams that are on this board right here in terms of remaining schedule. Then, continuing the homestand on Friday the 4th of April, they're against the Minnesota Wild. And then to round out that 3-game homestand, on Sunday the 6th, they're at home against Washington. This is tough. This is like almost a murderer's row of games here. You've got Tampa, Carolina, Tampa, Minnesota, Washington. Washington might be home and cooled. Division cinched up, no problem. Maybe Washington doesn't play a great game and the Islanders can beat them there. But Minnesota's in a dogfight, so's Tampa, and so's Carolina. A bit, kind of, sort of. Carolina's kind of secured in that second spot, but they're going to want to maintain that distance between themselves and the Devils. So if the Islanders can emerge from this 5-game stretch here, not unscathed, I don't think you're going to get out of that 5-game stretch unscathed, but if they can, say, go 2-2-1 in those 5 games, they have every chance in the world. Then they go on the road for 1. They go to Nashville on Tuesday the 8th. That's a game you'd have to win. Then they come home on Thursday the 10th for a massive game against the New York Rangers. We know there'll likely be some punches thrown in that game, probably some goals scored, and it should be interesting because there's a very different style of hockey between the Rangers and the Islanders who will dictate the play there. Then they go on the road for 2. They're in Philadelphia on Saturday the 12th of April, and the next night they're in New Jersey against the Devils. Those are games they're going to have to win as well. Their final game at home is on the 15th of April against Washington. So they have 2 remaining games against the Washington Capitals, but both of them are at UBS, so maybe that gives them a bit of an advantage. They should win 1, right? And once again, by this point, Washington's probably got everything all cinched up, and they'll be resting guys. Not Ovi, but they'll be resting guys. And then they go on the road, do the Islanders, to finish the regular season on Thursday the 17th at Columbus. So 2 games against Columbus, but they've got 2 games against Washington, 2 games against Tampa. This is a daunting schedule for the New York Islanders. But would I be that surprised? I'm more surprised looking at the underlying numbers. This team's still in the running, to be honest. So in goal scoring, for the season, 2.7 goals scored per game. That's 26th in the National Hockey League. Goals against per game, 2.94 goals against per game. That's 17th. So negative goal differential. We talked about that with Wes the other day. It happens. Their power play is awful. 11.5%. That's last in the league. Their penalty killing is awful. 71.2%. That's 31st. How is this team still in the running is the question you can ask yourself. And you're not wrong. Matthew Barzal has missed most of the season. He is probably going to miss the rest of the regular season. Semyon Varlamov, their 1B in net, he's likely out for the whole season. So it's all on it's all on Sorokin. It's all on Sorokin. Varlamov's out, and clearly Patrick Waugh has more faith in Sorokin than any of the other options they have on this team. So it's interesting. Now, since February 21st, so looking at, from Four Nations till now, their leading scorer has been Brock Nelson. The problem with that is Brock Nelson's no longer with the team. And what's shocking is he's only played 6 games before the trade to Colorado. 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points. Yeah, Brock was playing well and they traded him. And their next leading scorer has 8 points, but it's in 13 games, and it's Pajot. 12 games, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. Kyle Palmieri, 12 games, 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 points. Palmieri's 34. There's discussions of them extending Palmieri past the season. Pajot, 32. There are some older players on this New York Islanders team. Dobson, 10 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. Holmstrom, 12 games for 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. D'Angelo, 12 games, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. There's 5-on-5, regular strength issues with D'Angelo's game, but we all know this. We all know that defensively D'Angelo's game is suspect. Anders Lee's 34, 12 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points for him over the last calendar month. They need a little more from Lee. They probably need a little more from Horvat, too, down the stretch if they're going to make this work. 12 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points for Horvat as well. Horvat wins face-offs. He's a very good two-way forward, but they're going to need more goals from him over these remaining 15 games, or they very well could miss the playoffs. Now, Sorokin's 6-4-1 over the last month with a .904 save percentage. Skarek, no record. He saved every shot he faced, and Hogberg 0-1 with an .889 save percentage. It's the Sorokin net. That's it. It's his net. He should just write his name on it and then just take that net to the other end of the ice in between periods. This is my net. Because nobody else is going to be in the net for the Islanders, I would think, other than maybe the back-to-backs. But look at this. You've got Tampa Bay and Carolina. Where do you play? I think Skarek's still in there. I think Hogberg. I know Hogberg's been out and whatnot. But which backup? Doesn't matter the backup, really. Which game are you going to play? Is it Carolina or Tampa where you put in the backup? Or does Patrick Waugh just put Sorokin in for both? I would not be surprised to see Sorokin play all 3 of these games over that 4 days. Maybe you play your backup against Carolina on Sunday the 30th, and you play Sorokin in both games against Tampa. So you'd probably have Vasilevsky and Sorokin in both those games. But it's going to be fascinating to see how that turns out. And then they have this back-to-back here where I would think a backup gets to play. And then outside of that, I don't think there are any other back-to-backs. I'm just scanning through. Yeah, I don't see any. So, it is Sorokin's net. They're without Barzal, which is a big part of the reason why their scoring is not really working out all that well. But somehow they're still in the hunt. Now, what's interesting is over the last month, where they are 6-5-1, so they're still winning enough games to stay in the hunt, they're scoring 2.58 goals per game, below their average. They're allowing 3 goals against per game, above their average, and still staying in the hunt. And their power play has been worse over the last calendar month at 11.1%. A drag on the 11.5% on the season, and their penalty kill slightly better at 73.3%, higher than that 71.2% they have for the season. I have no idea how a team that has awful special teams, the goal differential's just not there, and yet they're in the running. They could do it. And before anybody says they can't, Washington did it last year. Nobody expected Washington to end up in the playoffs, and they got there. So are the Islanders going to pull a Washington and end up above the playoff line? This really is the 5-game stretch where we'll find out what the Islanders are made of here. Now, this month they have victories against Nashville, so lower team, and they have another game against Nashville this upcoming. They beat Winnipeg, They beaten San Jose. Granted, a lot of teams beat San Jose, but they had a comeback victory against Florida and a comeback victory against Pittsburgh. The back-to-back comeback victories, honestly impressive, and show that this team isn't giving up when other teams might. They might look at all the numbers and go, oh, we're not going to make it. You might look at the standings and go, oh, well, we're, and at the very least look somewhat discouraged, but nope. Twice they've been down 2-0 over the last 2 games, and twice they came back and won. Against Pittsburgh, they were down, and they never deviated from their game plan. And same thing against Florida. They never deviated from their game plan there either. It's not the prettiest hockey that they play, clearly, but they've managed to find some victories along the way. So that's impressive. Now, Money Puck, getting into playoff odds, because we're at that time of year about, hey, who's got the odds on best chances? Montreal has a 34.3% chance of holding that second wildcard spot, at the very least finishing in the playoffs. The New York Rangers, they give them 32.6% chance. The Islanders, 27.4% chance. To me, that's a coin flip. The difference between 34% and 27%, it's a coin flip when you're looking at that many games that are left. And then you got Columbus at 7.2%, Detroit at 7%, Boston 0.9%. I really do need a Jim Carrey face from Dumb and Dumber, so you're telling me there's a chance. I need like a little magnet I can put next to a team like Boston here. Because it does feel like, you're telling me there's a chance when it's 0.9% chance of making the playoffs. And you got to pass all these other teams if you're Boston as well. Plus, you've played more games. So, for the Islanders, I think it would be fascinating to see how a series between, say, the Islanders and the Capitals would go if they make the playoffs. I especially think it would be interesting if they won both games against Washington down the stretch. And that's part of how they make the playoffs. So, I'm not counting them out. I still think the best team in the running is probably the Rangers. The most exciting choice might be Montreal. But there's a fascination to the Islanders and the idea of them making it as well. And then the most inspirational, if they were able to make it, would be Columbus. But at any rate, let me know your thoughts. Do you think that the New York Islanders could be the team to make it? If not, why not? And if so, why so? Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.